Welcome to COMETSA Radio Podcast live on COMETSA Podcasting Network, a member of COMETSA Global Online Channels. The mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. The show is our monthly coaches learning forum. It is based on our principle of the idea. We inform and entertain. We develop and educate. We empower and support. We associate and network. That is the idea. We have invited coaches to unpack various coaching models as a precursor to our future comprehensive shows on each of the models with each of these coaches. We have two segments. We're going to start with segment 1 that will go on for an hour, and then we'll take a 2-minute break and switch over to segment 2 with a new set of coaches. In this first segment, I have Coach Patricia that will be sharing with us insights on the Grow coaching model. Greetings, Patricia.
Hi, Sam. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Just increase your volume a little bit. And then we have Coach Mishti. By the way, Patricia is logging in out of Lagos in Nigeria. And then we have Coach Mishti logging in out of Mumbai in India. I think Coach Loisy, are you in for the first segment, or are you not in for the second segment? I think you should be in the first segment. Am I right? Or second segment, sorry. Coach Loisy? Okay. Greetings to you, Coach Mishti.
Greetings, Sam. Greetings, everyone. It's wonderful to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Then we have Coach George. Okay, Coach Mishti will be talking about appreciative coaching model. And then we'll be followed by Coach George that will talk about, George Mutende Zamera, that will talk about OSKAR coaching model, OSKAR. We're supposed to have Coach Kenzane Chauke. She's not in at the moment, so we'll move on to Coach. Greetings, Coach George. Apologies. Coach George, your mic is muted.
Oh, there you go. Greetings, Sam. Thank you very much. Greetings to the listeners. Greetings to my fellow coaches. Welcome to our show tonight.
Beautiful, beautiful. Welcome, George. And then we have Coach Seri Mantoko. She is going to be in partnership with Coach Tumo Chiloane, and they are talking about the model. Remind me, Seri, the model you're talking about is the
clear coaching model.
The clear coaching model together with Coach Tumo. Greetings to you, Coach Seri and Coach Tumo.
Greetings, everyone.
Good evening, everybody.
Wonderful, wonderful. Coach Krista, did I greet you?
You did, Sam.
I did. Okay, beautiful. But you are belonging to Coach session number 2, if I'm not mistaken. Segment number 2. You and Coach Loazi. But because you are here, that's wonderful. I think we can start with Coach Patricia. Coach Patricia, if you don't mind, just quickly, shortly introduce yourself and take us through the GROW model.
All right. Hi, everyone, and good evening. Can I just check that you can hear me properly?
I can hear you very well. We can hear you well, Coach.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. Great. Yeah, so it's wonderful to be here. So I'm a credential coach with the International Coaching Federation. I'm also a coach facilitator on the Professional Coach Certification Program, which is an international program that's run to develop individuals to be certified coaches. And I'm an executive director for EZ37 Solutions. So that's a little bit about me. I've got over 25 years of working internationally across different countries. So Sam has asked me to talk about the GROW model today. And I'm conscious that I'm speaking to coaches. So I'm just going to go straight in and talk about it from the perspective in which we operate on our coach certification training. And I suppose, it goes without saying that the success of and growth of coaching is due to the fact that it works. We're not very good at changing ourselves, so we usually need someone from outside our heads to disrupt our thinking by reflecting our thoughts back to us and ask questions that prompt us to wonder why we think the way we do. So the questions that a coach would ask a coachee is to enable us to see our stories as if we were putting them in front of us in a journal. Now, I'm going to be speaking about the GROW model, which basically stands for, the G is for goal, the R is for reality, the O is for options, and the W is for way, such as way forward. In case you're not aware, it was created by Sir John Whitmore, and it's actually a model upon which so many other coaching models are based. So what is the GROW model? GROW is really a system whereby you follow a sequence to your coaching.
Exit left.
Let's remember, the goal of coaching is to get clients to stop and question the thoughts and behaviors that limit their perspective so they can see a new way forward to achieve their desires. So, for example, you follow through by asking questions after you have shared what you hear, what you see, or what you are sensing from the client. So your questions will come out of your own reflection, not from a list of questions that you've memorized. Yeah? So this form of question enables the coach to be present and effective. Now, because of the new perspective arrived at during the coaching session, clients discover new solutions, take action on solutions they had avoided, and commit to long-term behavioral changes more often than if, as we know, the coach tells the client what to do. Now, the GROW model is very popular, and it can be used every day, conversations, meetings, to unlock potentials and possibilities. Now, at EZ37 Solutions, we're certified by the International Coaching Federation to train individuals, teams to become certified coaches. And in fact, we have an onboarding session starting on the 28th of August. What we've done is we've actually tweaked the GROW model by adding 2 letters before the G. So instead of GRO model, we have ET GROW model. Right.
So this is now your approach at your organization in the implementation of the GROW model during your teaching of coaching.
Absolutely. So we have the ET GROW model, and here it is. The E stands for ethics, and the T stands for topic. Now, as we know, ICF continues to lead the way in developing a definition and philosophy of coaching, right? So as a result, before the coaching session starts, it's so important to explain to the individual or the team or the group that as an ICF professional, you are bound by ethical standards. This provides clarity on expectations and commitment. And the coach needs to provide the assurance of confidentiality. And this gives psychological safety when a coach partners with a client. Now, when an individual, a team, or a group has psychological safety, they feel included they feel valued, and they feel respected. They believe they can speak up, ask questions without being embarrassed. And this sets a solid foundation on which to build a partnership between the coach and the individual. So that's the E. Now the T stands for topic. So, I'd ask my coachee, what's on your mind today? The individual needs to decide on the topic for the discussion. The coach explores the topic to understand what aspects to focus on.
Cheek muscles as we drive by.
So the coach would ask, for example, what makes this important? Yeah. So that gives you a flavor of why we have the E and the T before we dive straight into the GROW model. We need to set some foundations. Having done that, the next we go to the G. And that is
Am I right to assume that that is happening during the coaching session? That's part of the coaching session that the coach will be having with the client.
Yeah, I mean, the ethics, we usually have a chemistry session beforehand. And that is where the issues of ethics will come in the agreements, before the session. But most definitely, at the start of the session, you do have to remind the client that, you're bound by standards, confidentiality, assure them of confidentiality, and ensure that they can, that you've created the conditions for them to experience that psychological safety. That it happens at every coaching session without exception. And then, of course, you explore that topic. And you do need to slow down a little bit, because that E and that T has really got to be done in a way that enables one to move forward in terms of understanding. Yeah? So the next then you move... Oh, sorry, Sam, go on.
Yeah, okay, I got it. You can move on.
Okay, so the next is then to move straight now into the goal, exploring the goal. And you will do this with an individual, a team, a group. And remember, this can be used universally. And so the individual or the coachee needs to be very clear on how to know if the goal of the coaching session was met. So I would often say something like, oh, actually, in a couple of months from now, how do you know you've achieved your goal? What will be different? What would you see? What would you hear? What would you feel? And so we would explore that issue of the goal to quite a bit of a degree. Having done that, we then move into reality, okay? And this is where you really face the issue for what it is. And that R is for reality. You discuss the current situation, what barriers currently exist between now and achievement of the goal. You ask questions, what we call inquiry, to help the individual or team find their strengths. So the coach needs to cut through all the relevant history, yeah, and avoid problem solving at this stage. The reality stage is not for problem solving. It's to face the issues as they are. And so some of the questions I'd normally ask, obviously it depends on the topic, but generally speaking, I'd like to know what's happening at the moment. I'd like the individual or the group or the team to talk about how this impacts other areas of the environment in which they work. I'll be asking what they're doing that takes them forward towards their goal. I'll also be asking what they're doing that they think or they feel is standing in the way. And in many respects, it's worth asking, who else does it affect? And these are questions that get the coachee thinking, And then, so having explored that, we would want to take note of any shifts in body language, in tone, in voice. All of that needs to come into the equation. And having gone through that, we now move to the O, which is the options. All right. Now, at the option stage, here you actually generate all possibilities and identify what is coming up and ensure all choices are made. The thing about the option stage is things come up all the time. People have aha moments, people have light bulb moments. So the issue here is to actually enable the coachee to be able to think through the issues. And, silence is a very powerful tool in coaching, and it has to be utilized respectfully. And so at option stage, I could also ask, so what could you do? And what ideas do you have? And what alternatives do you have? Because everyone who comes for coaching, as we know, is resourceful, very capable, but there's usually something standing in the way of them seeing that the possibilities that exist for them. Now, the last stage is known as, the last stage is the W. And some people say it's the will, some say it's the way forward. But at this stage, the coachee is actually committing to a time-bound action. The coachee is actually identifying obstacles, agreeing support. And, throughout the GROW model, you really need to go back and be revisiting the goals. And sometimes you may need to say, okay, so where are we now? Just to check in that, you're having the discussion that the session was meant to have. And
Great
so
stuff.
on the way forward, you check feelings, and so you might ask, so what will you do? And how will
Yes.
you do that?
Beautiful. I know that this is beautiful. I know we're going to come back and spend an hour with you in the later shows, really diving deeper into it. There's a question here. Do you achieve all the elements of the model in one coaching sitting? Is it possible? I know if we go deeper on this question, we'll exhaust your time. Unless you want to make it just a quick comment, and then we need to move on to Coach Mishti. But thank you so much. I like the fact that you have adapted the GROW model to your coaching training program at EZ Coaching over there. So we can't wait to have you back to spend more time on it. Do you want to comment on that question quickly? And then I want to bring in Coach Mishti from Mumbai.
Most times, yes. Yes, the answer is yes. But there are times when no, we are unable to complete it. And so at the outset, it's part of when I do the agreement, the chemistry session, I will explain that there are instances where we may not actually complete the session in the way that we designed. And, that's all part of the reality of coaching. You do it at the pace of the coachee.
Yeah, absolutely. These models are just tools in our tool bag. Eh?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great.
There's no perfect way. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Coach Patricia. Greetings to fellow coaches in Lagos. We'll definitely look forward to have you coming back and spend an hour with us.
Thank you. Thank you very
But
much.
you can stay in the studio. You don't have to go now.
All right. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Wow. Wonderful. We really appreciate that. Coach Mishti, the foundation is laid for you. Appreciative coaching model.
Yes, thank you for appreciating that, Sam. And Coach Patricia, thank you for sharing such interesting insights. And I loved the fact that you brought in psychological safety. I think that's so important to create an environment that is safe for people to freely ask questions and to be able to go through the journey. So thank you for bringing it in. I would like to talk about appreciative coaching briefly because we just have a slot of 5-10 minutes. I won't take too much time introducing myself. I've been in the space of learning and development since 15 years. I'm a consulting partner at OD Alternatives, which is a boutique HR consulting organization in India. They've also introduced some of the coaching practices in India. And I'm also a strengths coach. I specialize in leadership development, DEI, gender sensitization, and facilitation and coaching. So when we talk about appreciative coaching, the fundamental thing to remember is that it's grounded in appreciative inquiry. And while getting into appreciative inquiry, the most beautiful part of appreciative coaching is that it begins from the principle of strengths. And being a strengths coach, this is something very exciting for me. When the first stage of coaching itself helps the coachee remember the strengths, the periods of excellence, the success stories, that makes the coachee feel so empowered. So there is a 4D approach that is followed, which is discovery, dream, design, and destiny, which is also delivery, as we call it. Now, the discovery process is essentially about success stories, understanding what resources and strengths you have in order to achieve your goal. Then from discovery, you move on to dreaming. So appreciative coaching is a lot about future possibilities or creating the vision that you want for yourself. Where we talk about goal in other processes, here is about just creating the vision, future possibilities, the power of possibilities. And it begins with first understanding what strengths you are empowered with. So the second stage, the dream, is about, creating those possibilities and creating a bold vision. Then we move on to designing that. So you're actually designing your vision. You're creating an action plan and a roadmap on how you're going to actually achieve that. And then the final space is delivery. How do you lay out? How do you craft your own destiny? How do you create your own road plan? What are the actions that you need to take? Like all coaching models, of course, there's a lot of reflective process that's there. There's a lot of processing that's required. But this has a construct of the 5 principles of appreciative coaching and appreciative inquiry that talks about constructionist, simultaneity, anticipatory, poetic, and positive principles. We don't have time to deep dive into those principles, but I'm just going to talk about some of the things. It talks about your words create your own reality. So how do you describe things? What is your worldview? What is the language you're using? So it'll help you, it'll invite you to reflect upon these descriptives as well, and look at things from multiple lenses, and see, are you going beyond your poetic principle? Are you going beyond the mental filters and the subjective realities that you create for any situation? And see what are the possibilities, what is the positive outcomes that you see yourself, that you can see in the future. So it's literally painting your own vision, but also investigating, evaluating the different possibilities, the options, what Patricia was talking about. So you look at the various options that are there beyond what you perceive as a subjective reality. And this is not only for the coachee, it's also for organizations, it's also for leaders, where they can look at the whole ecosystem at large and see what are the various possibilities that can be created beyond the mental filters, the limitations. Just tap into the resources that are available, the strengths, the potential that is there, and to be able to lay out the roadmap through very deep listening, through holding space, through creating psychological safety, through processing, to reflective questioning.
Am I right, Bishti, to say that when you use the appreciative coaching model, it's really about the positivity. It's always avoiding the things that, or the comments that will pull down the client, but more showing them the possibilities that are out there. Is that the simplified way that one can describe the model?
Absolutely. The essence is empowerment. So when you are empowering the coachee, you're empowering the individual, you're empowering leaders, it's very important to help them recognize their own potential, their own strengths. And yes, language plays a huge role. So, like I said, the words create the reality. So the descriptors, the words that you're using, the language that you're using, you carefully choose what is it that has a positive impact. The style of questioning that will have a positive impact. And also, redirect the thoughts of the coachee towards more positive application, more resources, more possibilities, rather than just a problem-solving approach.
And I'm wondering, one has to be very authentic because otherwise the client will pick it up if you're not genuine with your positive messages.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. One has to be authentic. And that is why it is also helpful if you encourage the client to go beyond conditioned thinking or mental filters or biases or subjective realities.
Wow, I like the point you raised that the foundation of this appreciative coaching model is actually the concept of appreciative inquiry. That is quite very helpful because if one wants to deepen the understanding of the model, one will need to read a bit more about appreciative inquiry concept.
Yes, absolutely. So, appreciative inquiry, like I said, talks about the 4D approach and the 5 principles that I mentioned. I'm not going into detail here, but of course, in the 1 hour show, we will deep dive into that as well. Essentially, very empowering. And when we talk about appreciative inquiry, you see there are 2 words here. There's appreciative and there's inquiry. So while you are appreciating possibilities, the vision that you want to paint for yourself, it's also important to do the inquiry. So to ask the right questions, to see the possibilities, to see the various options that are there simultaneously, and to reconstruct reality beyond mental patterns, mental models, limitations, biases, or filters.
Beautiful. Wow. I can't wait for your 1 hour, Mishti. Thank you so much for staying until this late to be with us. And I know you are able to stay on a little bit until the end of this hour, but you're welcome to stay longer if the situation on your side allow. Thank you so much. We are grateful. We look forward to your 1 hour with us in the coming months.
Thank you so much, Sam, and thank you so much, fellow coaches and everyone in the audience. It's wonderful to be here once again.
Beautiful, and greetings to fellow coaches in Mumbai and India at large.
Thank you.
Coach George, OSKAR. That sounds like OSKAR Awards. You are muted. Coach George.
Okay, there we go.
You're right, George. Those who are not talking, please mute your mic because we can hear some sounds in the background. Over to you, George, the OSKAR coaching model.
Yes, and it is in the Hollywood Oscars. This is Oscar with a K. But right, let's get through it. But before I get there, let me just tell my colleagues and audience who I am. I'm an executive business and a life coach. I'm based here in Johannesburg, and I bring into my coaching 37 years of experience as a lawyer, as a legal advisor, as a marketer, as a sales guy, as a compliance man. I've just published a book, Winning the Gold Way, in May. So I'm an author. I'm a credentialed coach with the ICF. And in fact, I sit on the International Coaching Federation South Africa Chapter Board as a non-executive director. And my prayer, as I tell everybody, is to get more people involved in coaching as coaches and utilizing the services of coaching. Okay,
Beautiful,
so
beautiful.
OSKAR.
We look forward to hear more about your book, but yeah, let's hear about the OSKAR coaching model.
Yes. And can I just drop this? In 2020, I think it was, coaching in the US was a $20 billion business, clearly indicating that there's a huge demand for it and that it's growing and it is helping people. So, yeah. So, what is OSKAR coaching model? The model is based on a solution-focused approach. And it is robust, and it helps focus on the solutions, not on the problems. And I want to emphasize this because all too often people get entangled into looking into the rear view mirror and worrying about what happened. We focused on the future. What's the solution? Where are we going? And so OSKAR, it's an acronym for O, which is outcome, S is scaling, K is know-how, A is affirm and action, and R is a review. So let's quickly go through them. The outcome, some people use the word objective. This is the goal stage, setting stage where you take as much as needed to understand what your client wants to achieve. I like to say it is the why. Why are you sitting in front of me? Why are we talking? Why are we having this conversation? The why is, oh, I want to get a promotion. Oh, I want to get better. And let's understand that and clearly and visualize the goal. I want my client to see that goal clearly in their mind before we even go anywhere. Because all too often guys get into a conversation and halfway through that contracting at this stage wasn't done properly and we're not so clear of where we want to go. So the objective, the outcome, that's the O. The S is for scaling. So after understanding the clear picture of their goal, now we're using scaling techniques to measure their capabilities and skills. So from between 1 and 10, where do you sit as I talk to you today? And all too often, the manager will probably see the employee at a 2 or a 3, and the employee sees himself at a 7. That number, but there's a gap, and that scaling is what is that gap, and that's what we need to work on to get you to the next stage. And the K is for know-how. Now, this is the time to establish an understanding as to what skills will help them to achieve their desired outcomes. And can I just say this stage is very important to really dig. Some authors use the word digging for gold. It requires a lot of time and resources. You really have to do this right. What have you got?
So it's like you're engaging with the client to do self-reflection in the middle of the session about their capabilities and the skills or the options.
Thank you. Absolutely. And Sam, if you get this right, the individual understands where they stand in terms of strength and weaknesses. And when you have a clear picture of that, then you are able to go back to that outcome. Here's our objective. This is what I have, but I need to get there. And then we're talking about what do we need to put in place. So this is dig for gold here. The A is for affirm and action. And if there's something that I really truly love about this coaching model, is the affirm part. All too often, we rush into action without affirming the individual. So I want to be the marketing director. I've done, 10 years I've got 10 years of experience. I've done these big things, but I don't have the academic papers to back that up. And so that's the gap that we need to fill. But affirm the fact that this guy has achieved mountains of things. Without that, affirm, be positive, reinforce the individual. So you emphasize those positive points, their strength, and then encourage them to take action, which is the affirm and action. So it's A plus A. That's the action part. What are the actions that we need to put in place to get you where you want to be? Understanding that this whole conversation, we've got that why correct. We know exactly where we're going. There's no doubt about our destination, our objective. And therefore, now we're encouraging to take action. What do we do immediately? What do we do in the interim as we go? And finally, the last one is review. Okay. So this requires giving feedback. You have to give feedback to your client and explain all the areas they're good at and what they need improving on. And you may want to be a bit more forceful on this one, because we've gone up in AA. We said, hey, you're good at this, you're good. You don't want to dwell too much on that, because you want to develop this guy, right? And so that's a negative, actually, which is often pointed out on this model, that you may actually go too deep into the affirmation and then not create that desire for growth. So they need to feel the need to grow at the end of it. And so that's OSKAR. And if you get it right, it really will give you the Oscars as the Grammys. Yeah, so that's OSKAR. I really do like this model. We'll go into more detail when we talk in the 1 hour sessions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, George. We certainly looking forward to that. And colleagues, feel free to drop inputs in the chat. Also, in terms of where the listeners can connect with you, you're welcome to drop in your contact details there, but also your social media platforms, because the whole idea is that we increase our connection as coaches and let people know where to get hold of us. The next model was about the performance. It's called performance coaching model. Unfortunately, Kenzani couldn't join. I will come back to it, touch on it a little bit at the end, but as I said, we will have the opportunity in future for her to take us through the model. Maybe we can then take advantage of that and move on to the next colleagues, Dumi and Sedi. So they're going to take us through clear coaching model. I like these acronyms, the clear, the achieve, the grow, the appreciative, but they really quite very insightful. Let me head over to Sedi and Dumi. Dumo, I don't know who's starting first, but you've had your conversation. Over to you.
Okay. Good evening once more, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Situmo Chilwane, known as Dumi. I'm a practicing coach and an accredited training provider. I'm going to talk about clear model. The model was formulated in the early 1980s by Professor of Leadership Peter Hawkins. The model is a transformational coaching process often used with leaders and executives. It's designed in such a way that the same process is used in each session of a coaching program. The word clear comes from the model's 5 key stages. That is, contract, listen, explore, action, and review. Now the question is, why clear a model? What are benefits of using the model? I've listed 4 benefits. The first one is that the clear model is primarily used for goal-focused coaching, whereby the coach supports and enables coaching to make changes to their beliefs and behaviors to facilitate their personal and professional growth. Number 2, the model is useful for individuals with leadership responsibilities who also see themselves as aspiring coaches and who are still refining their style, as it allows for feedback for them while also providing platforms that encourage coaching growth. Number 3.
Sorry to me, Coach George. Okay, thank you. I wanted to say to Coach George that he must mute. Thank you, George.
Okay. Number 3, the benefit number 3 is that it can be applied to many scenarios. And also the model is flexible and can be used to promote long-term and short-term growth for both the coachee and coach's own coaching style. Now I'm going to go through the 5 stages of the model. The first one, the contract, C stands for contract. The main goal of this stage is to clarify the general scope of the session and to outline the coaching process in order to avoid confusion and misunderstanding. At this stage, logistical issues should be tackled, including the frequency, duration, and location of the meeting, in order to create an organized and trackable schedule for the process. The next stage is listening. This stage put emphasis on the coach having the coachee share their reality, their thoughts and feelings. The key aspect here are active listening and contract focus. The aim is to allow the coach and individual to truly understand the situation. This step is crucial as it allows the individual to challenge their own assumptions and motivations surrounding their behaviors. The 4 levels of listening should be utilized here. Attentive listening, the coach should provide full and undivided attention to the individual. Accurate listening, the coach should be able to interpret and understand what the individual has said so that they will be able to paraphrase the discussion. Empathetic listening, the coach should be able to show that they understand the underlying emotions of the conversation, not purely at the surface level. Pure listening, the coach should be able to understand, interpret, and express further than what has been said by the coachee. After this stage, then we move to the explore, that is the E. Once the individual has outlined their current situation, the coach should act slightly more proactive to probe further about the depth and context of the situation. This step aims to enable coachee to develop an emotional connection to their behavioral change. The next stage is action. The focus of this stage is to get the coachee to commit to their required changes with the intent of internalizing their new outlook. The coachee should lead the road to action by truly considering each potential option for their next step and its impact on them, personally and professionally. And the last stage is the review. This stage is much more about following up on the progress. It is important to ensure that the coachee is on track to reaching their goal. At the same time, the coach can evaluate his or her performance and improve their style to provide more support. I'm now going to hand to my colleague, Sadie, to talk more about model.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stumo. So absolutely, really echoing everything that Stumo had said. My name is Sadie. So let me introduce myself. My name is Sadie, and I am a leadership emotional intelligence performance coach, as well as life coach, working a lot with learners and students, helping them navigate through school and life. It's my contribution to a better society as far as I can. The beauty of being a coach, I know we all have that appreciation. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yes, absolutely, Stumo. The clear coaching model, for me, it really makes everything absolutely clear. I personally appreciate this model because by design, I find it easy for me to adhere and display the behavioral standards as the coaches, we need to do so. And I find that it makes it so easy for me to do that. And the steps are absolutely as Stuma has said it, and I'm really just here to echo those points. And what stands out for me is the part on the contracting. We know Stuma has said that, listening, which is the L from the clear, and the E, that has to be the part that I really enjoy the most when I apply the model. With the E, 100% to help the client to find the solution, but really going for that digging for gold approach, George, observing silence, asking very thought-provoking questions for the client to look inwardly to see and allow them to connect with their emotions, to see how the issue that they have presented impacts the decisions that they have made in the past, how the issue that has been presented can potentially continue impact them, and why and how it has left them stuck, because we are here to help them get unstuck. And in the explore section, I also like to challenge the client to explore ways to resolving the issue, thinking of themselves, and most importantly, thinking about others. So while it is a solution for them, but our actions impact others, and I really like to bring that across so that whatever they're doing, they can also be aware of the social the social relatedness that they have to others. If this is a leader, how will this impact their team? How will this impact their performance? How will this impact in a life coaching context? How will this impact my family? How will this impact other relationships and so forth? So definitely appreciating that we are part of a whole. And I pull that through when we get to the A, when we start with an action plan and continuing to think of and putting forth action plans that are SMART, another acronym, and bearing in mind that we need other people, we need support, and we need to support others. So those are the big takeouts for me, and why I really appreciate the clear coaching model. And the rest then is the review. What did we do? What did the client learn about themselves today from this session? And for me as a coach, I really want the client to tell me if they were served fairly, ethically, if they were served with dignity. And that is also to affirm to them why the coaching is important, the value of the process. And yeah, that's the clear coaching model.
Thank you so much. Sure. I hope you keep the partnership with Stumo for the next full hour show.
Sure. I'm sure we can.
We look forward to that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I've just acknowledged Coach Dolores that's joined us. She's listening, and I said to her, time allowing, I will invite her into the studio, perhaps in the next round, to get her comments. But she mentioned something that is interesting there, to say that it just shows how versatile coaching is. By the way, these models are developed by coaches like ourselves. So it just shows that every time you introduce a new model, you are saving the entire community of coaches across the world. Thank you so much, colleagues. Wow, that was beautiful. I think our listeners are really feeling very much entertained and educated. Maybe you want to say a few words, but we left with almost 1 minute to go from my side. Indeed, wonderful, good show. We are going to take a 2-minute break while we switch over to welcome the next set of coaches. Thank you, colleagues. You can stay or join on the platform. If you're struggling to go to the public platform, let us know. We'll help you connected. But for now, thank you so much. With the exception of Krista. Krista, you stay because you are you are next in the second round. The rest of colleagues, Mishti, you can join on the platform. Sally, George, and Dumi, please stay on the public platform and enjoy the next round. Thank you so much. Yeah, welcome, fellow coaches. I have space for 3 more coaches. I see Coach Ulrike is here and Coach Dolores is here. I'm going to invite them over if they are keen to sit in the studio so that they can interject if they so wish. Let me see. Coach Ulrike, I'm inviting you over if you are keen to be part of the studio. We have space available for you. Please accept my invite to come over. It's always good to welcome fellow coaches. Yeah, how are we doing, coaches? Krista, Ramavaka, are you ready?
We're ready.
Oh, good to have you here. Let's listen to the countdown, and then we are ready to listen to you talking to us about the food.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, over to you, Ramavaka and Krista. Introduce yourself, the model, and let's have a conversation.
Hi, Sam. So, my name is Krista. We are discussing the STAR model,
Oh, is this a
STAR.
star model? Oh, okay. Sorry. My apologies. You can carry on. Sorry. I thought it was fuel. Fuel model is Coach Loazi and Coach Rabula. No problem. You carry on. They will come after you.
All right. So, basically, the STAR coaching model is particularly useful to those new in leadership role, or it used to be. Why I say that is because, as mentioned on Wednesday's discussion, nothing is the same any longer, and what used to work before doesn't work now. So leaders need to multitask even more. Some staff works remotely or even globally, which makes the leadership role even harder and more stressful on many levels, which means that actually anyone in the leadership role, whether new or not, can benefit from the model. David Bonham Carter came up with the STAR method, which is rooted in CBT as a tool to help others improve problem solving and stress management skills. It's a proven coach method to effectively deliver constructive, valuable feedback, which leads to a more collaborative, communicative, and higher performing company culture. So it's more specific, structured approach, and it brings the attention of a feedback session to the forefront, to not make it a once-off event, but to schedule it to follow up on a daily or weekly basis. Coach Ramabaka.
Hi, Krista. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Coach.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Just to introduce myself, I'm Ramabaga Abel Simula, practicing accountant, passionate about entrepreneurial development, also passionate about governance and strategy, running my own consulting company. I've also set up a publishing company whereby I publish a digital business magazine over and above my entrepreneurial, interest into agriculture and biotechnology. Yes, the STAR coaching model is quite an interesting because it encourages two-way stream communication between the coachee and the coach, so that no one can feel, intimidated, because it leads itself. In terms of the coaching approach, you can even, during the check-in, as when you start with your coachee, be able to size up as to at what stage and what are some of the dynamics that are happening in the coachee's life that we can be able to now start tapping into as a two-way communication to tap into the coaching conversation that the two of you have agreed upon. The acronyms STAR, touches on four critical. Talk about the situation. You talk about the task or the thoughts. Talk about the action. And the last one is whereby you talk about the results that will come out of that particular conversation as you deal with your coachee. In terms of the situation, the coach will be able to invite to describe a particular situation that happened, that is it, and, either if it was a great performance or that, identifies an area of improvement. Therefore, you now are able to now ask the coachee to give in detail what kind of a situation is that particular one, so that then you are able now to process that particular situation to see what kind of thoughts went into, your mind when that situation. For an example, if maybe there was a high performance of exceeding your targets in terms of sales or your targets in terms of the set goals for that particular period. The coachee can be able to share that particular situation and now can also now explore in terms of the feelings that he went through, achieved that particular set goal that you are at the moment. With that particular, idea in mind, then, you can be able to now start going into the action, which I'll leave to my colleague Krista to touch about, to describe, what the A and the R talks about.
Thank you, Ramabaka. So basically, the action is clearly highlights what actions was taken, and therefore assist the employees in the future so they can understand how to correct a mistake going forward. Or if it was a positive action that was taken, they will be aware of how they did the right thing at that stage. Then the results, basically you can have a look at the results. Before that, also make sure if there was any other actions that could have been taken. In detail with the result, you can describe in a positive way what actions was taken. Was, for example, if there had been a client complaint, if the client was satisfied after that, did he still the employee still make a sale after that?
Wow, it's very interesting. I'm looking at this. I'm listening to you presenting this model, and I'm at what stage do you think you will engage the client around formulation of their objectives or their actions or goals? Because I see the results there at the end is the ultimate, but is that during the situation, during the S part of the model, or when what do they say in the model when you were referring to it? Is it anyone can comment, not necessarily the two coaches? I was actually asking myself, where will I discuss or contract with the client for the goals? Will that be during the situation analysis, or is that done before? Is it assuming that we do goal contracting during the chemistry session, and therefore throughout we work towards those goals or not? What do you think?
Well, it's through the situation analysis. If remember at check-in, if the guy is quite excited about having surpassed the goals, and he expresses the feelings as to what action then take, once he realized achieved the set goals and he has now expressed himself. And as the coach, remember during that process, you commend him to say, wow, that's a very, good performance. And, this is something that is quite, appreciative, and the results. So where to from here, from you? What goal do you want to set for yourself?
Okay. So it's embedded within the situation analysis part of the session.
Definitely.
And so the tasks and the actions, what's the difference there?
So during the task, actually, you would ask the client, how did he feel about the situation? What was his thoughts? And the action is the actual action that was taken with the situation.
I see. Or that could be the actions that you and the client are agreeing that they should be taken to resolve the situation, right?
No, the action that he took overall. So with your task and your action, you go through that, and he will know. In future, he will know how to correct the action if it was not the correct way, or if it was successful. He would know that he did a good thing. He did the right thing.
Beautiful. Great stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot of material that you will want to take us through during the next 1 hour session that you will be having.
Yes.
Are there any tactics you will want to use to make us absorb all there is to absorb about the model?
Well, I mean, the benefits that the model presents in terms of application. You can be able to use it as a two-way communication tool, and you have to do that one-to-one conversation privately, so that you can be able to now give feedback to the coachee, the leader, in terms of how well he performed, or how where improvement in terms of shortcomings that were identified in out a particular function that maybe he didn't perform on. So that becomes part of the performance management, and therefore it encourages that the leader should not wait to give feedback at the quarterly review, because when you give feedback on a regular basis, somebody is able to know, appreciate the team, because he's getting that feedback on a continual basis. Two, he identifies the areas of improvement. Therefore, even when the official performance review come, already has identified areas whereby he can master, whereby his strengths have been recognized by his leader. Secondly, where there were certain shortcomings, goals on how then he can be able to propel himself to achieve the set goals for.
Great. Thank you very much, Coach Krista and Coach Ramabaka. Thank you so much. We're definitely looking forward to engage with you in much more detail during your 1 hour session. Thank you very much for your input.
Thank you. Looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Lovely. Yes, Coach Loazi and Coach Rabula. I'm missing Coach Rabula. I saw him earlier on, but it looks like he is no longer there. Let me try to locate him. Coach Loazi, I'm not okay. I can see Rabula there. Let me bring him into the studio. Okay.
Good evening, Sam.
Coach, yeah, thank you. Welcome back, Rapula, Coach Rapula and Coach Loazi. Your motto is fuel model. Please, over to you. Let's hear about the fuel model.
Loazi, I'm not sure where you're going to start because you are driving. We'll be able to stick around for the next 10 minutes. Or should I start in terms,
Just increase your volume, Rapula.
Now, I was just asking myself, because Loazi is driving, whether it's going to stop for the next time in 10 minutes, or are we going to continue while she's driving?
Yeah. Do you want us to wait for her to arrive? I saw her message that she had to pick up the child.
She's listening from a radio, so I don't know if...
Yeah, she's in the studio. I can see her.
She's here. Okay. All right. Sam, our model is called Fuel Modeling. My name is Rapula Mudibani. I'm doing a combination of two, coaching and mentorship, but more focus on mentorship at this stage. and a little bit of consulting. I've been doing small consulting, running it around the flat. On entrepreneurs.
The colleagues are saying your voice is very soft. Either increase the volume or just maybe get closer to the phone.
I'm very close to the phone. Maybe let me increase it to the phone right now.
Yeah, increase the volume.
Yes. What I'm raising is my name is Rapula Mudibani. I am currently doing mentorship for the small entrepreneurs, SMEs basically, and I'm doing consulting within the mining sector, specifically on ESD. Some people are asking what is ESD, is enterprise supply development, and also ESG, environment, social governance issues around in the mining sector. That's where you find me in most cases. And I've developed a lot of interest in coaching because it's different from always.
Ramabaka, please mute yourself. Sorry, Rapula.
No problem. I've developed more interest in coaching because there's always a thin line between coaching and mentorship. Mentorship is doing, coaching is more assisting a person to do. That's why I normally sort of say maybe it's now the time for me to take the back seat and give the front seat to the client itself. So the coaching model as it stands at this moment is called fuel modeling. It was developed by the two authors or the two psychologists, which is John Zenger and Kathleen Stinnett, and with their book called Extraordinary Coach, How the Best Leaders Help Others to Grow. In that instances, with small introduction, I'll hand over to Lwazi to carry on with the concept fuel, and then I'll take it over from here in the later stages. Lwazi, over to yourself.
Good evening, everybody. I've just parked my car and I'm hoping to, I know that our segment is not too long, so I just thought that if I wait until I drive all the way home, then we might be in a little bit of trouble. So what is very nerve-wracking for me is that everybody else is already a practicing coach, and I have been in learning and development. I have been training since 2013. And so coaching is still a very new concept. I'm here to learn. And
They also still can't hear you. They can't hear you well, Loazi. They said, please increase the volume. They're so eager to hear you, but but the voice is so low. Yeah, I think keep it at that level that you have just pushed to now.
Okay, so I was saying good evening, colleagues. I have been in learning and development since 2013, but this is very intimidating for me because I've only just stepped into being Coach Lwazi, and I don't have much experience in it. So for me, reading through and really learning all of these models has been quite a learning experience. And I'm hoping that as I speak about the different concepts, and as I speak about what fuel really is, that my colleague Rapula is then able to bring his expertise on, and we can have a sort of learn experience. I'm just here to share with you my thoughts and my great appreciation for the coaching model. And I'm actually hoping that by the end of this entire segment, that you can all appreciate it as much as I had when I was learning through it and really looking at it. And it's a really powerful way, one that I felt is an incredibly effective method of getting coachees to realize their own personal and even their professional goals. And so I'd like you to humor me for just a little bit in something that's known as a word association game. So we will be quiet for 5 seconds while you think about all the words that come to mind when you think of fuel. So I say the word fuel, and I'm giving you 5 seconds to think of all the words that come to mind when you think of that. Awesomeness. Thank you very much. I'm sure there were words such as power source, such as charge, such as fire, stimulate, petrol, boost, provoke. And you'd be absolutely right. Our coachees will have to find themselves fired up about the solutions that they get, that have to be charged, that have to be stimulated in order for them to create a working plan towards their goals. So I just want to take a bit of a step back and talk about what is this fuel coaching method actually. It was developed by John Zenga and Kathleen Stinnett in a book that they, in a very renowned book that they released in the year 2010, and that was called The Extraordinary Coach. So I'd like to break it down just a little bit. And I think just as I speak about each of the different concepts, and maybe I can also hand over to Rapula to share what he thinks. So I'm going to break down. The acronym is FUEL. The first is to frame the conversation. The U then stands for understanding the current state. The E stands for exploring the desired state. And the L stands for a layout of success. So we're going to break that down even further into bite sizes and just look at the frame. My understanding of what framing the conversation is about really focusing on the conversation and not the problem. We're not framing the problem at this point. We're framing the conversation. So this is where we agree on the purpose, on the process, on the desired outcomes for the discussion. And we should always remember as coaches to be asking open-ended questions and not leading questions, because open-ended questions really allow your coachee to be able to speak and not just give yes or no answers. So you're able to gain a lot of information from that particular open-ended question. And what's really limiting about leading questions is that then they tend to be quite prescriptive and counterproductive, because as the coach, you are already telling your coachee an answer or giving them a solution in the way you've asked your question. And that isn't really what FUEL is about. It's about really empowering the coachee to know that the solutions really do stand with them. So I'll just allow for Rapula to say anything on frame the conversation, or would you like me to continue?
I'll just add it on in terms of when this model was more designed for the senior managers or executive of the institutions to help them to grow. Other leaders or other subordinates will come through to make sure that the institution or the corporate or the company has got more leaders who are growing other leaders. Hence to say, that's why the model was more designed to make sure that it helps other people to grow, leaders to grow other leaders, to make sure that you've got wide scope of leaders within the institution or within an organization. So I'll let you go, carry on with the other acronyms.
Yes. 100%. And I think it's also really important to remember that within that particular leadership context, within the workplace, that a coachee can also initiate this particular conversation, that it isn't just coaches that initiate the conversation. Okay, so moving on to the U, which is understanding the current state. This really helps the individual, it helps your coachee to gain awareness about their current state and to determine their perspective. So again, here we are asking the open questions in order for us to understand our coachees. So we ask questions such as, how do you see the situation? Which of course can't be a yes or no answer. It really asks the coachee to dig in deep and really ask themselves, what is it that they see of the conversation? And more questions like, is it working well? What makes this challenging? How might you have contributed to the situation? Allowing for a really deep, introspective, reflective moment for the coachee to go through while they are understanding the current state. Also, unpacking the consequences of staying put in this particular state. So they first then map out the current state of what is of the situation, and then they have to then say what the consequences are of staying here. So we try avoid offering our own perspective in this time, because it's got to be that the coachee gets to see what the current state is and how it has impacted on their work and their goals moving forward.
And still
Okay.
I wanted to come in still on the same way of
Yes, please.
in the current state. You can also utilize this methodology within the group coaching environment. For example, if you take the team out for a review of each strategic session, this methodology could also assist in terms of exploring the current state and making sure that when they go to the futuristic state, they have look in terms of what is working currently, what is not working currently, and how they solve it. In fact, you as a coach solve them for them. They can solve it themselves, but based on those questions, going to help them to lead to ask as many questions as possible. Over to you, Lwazi.
Yes, thank you. The next is exploring the desired state. Here's where we identify the target and generate multiple paths to achieving this particular state. You explore the ideal state with your coachee. You set goals and performance expectations, and you explore different approaches that will allow us to get to this particular desired state. So after they have unpacked the problem, they have now also unpacked the consequences of what it would look like to stay in this particular state. They now are allowed to dream of a state and what the ideal state would look like, and work back from the ideal state to where the problem is, and really have steps in their roadmap to get themselves into that ideal state. That is where our layout, that's where we lay out the success plan, which is the L in our fuel. And this is where we create a detailed, actionable plan and follow through that. Will then allow us to reach the intended goal. We develop and agree on this action plan and the timelines so that we are both kept accountable in order for us to reach this particular desired end. I think what is also important in the fuel model is to know that it is a framework and not a cage. And I think that Sam said that in the earlier session at 6:00 as well. To say that these are just things that are in our toolkit, and so we can't be imprisoned by that. It is the relationship that will determine exactly how we are able to use these tools, and how to make sure that we can use this particular coaching method to make most impact and be most effective.
Right. In conclusion to that fuel model, I thought of the following questions which came to my mind. Those who follow football, soccer, I'm thinking of Manchester United, which is one of the most successful team in UK at this moment, but currently sitting at the bottom of the league. The question asked is that when you can ask those questions in terms of how do they now going to go out of the current scenario, can they use a fuel model as a team?
Wow. Interesting point there, Rapula. So I can hear you saying that this is the type of model that you can use to take the team out of the mud or out of the stuckness.
Out of the slump into the back where they were in terms of greatness of the team. So what I'm picking there, this scenario is that, yes, fuel was designed for a senior team to create more leaders within the organization, but you can also use it as a team format. Rather than only focus on individuals, you can always use it as a team. Say, here we are as a team of 30 professionals, but we're not performing. What is wrong? So you go back to the issue of saying, let's start with the first one. Let's frame our conversation. We've played 4 games. We haven't won any single game. We haven't scored a single goal. What is wrong with us as a team? And identifying that, you start understanding what's the current state. Is it the mind issue? Or is it the performance issue? Or is there anything which is blocking us behind? And subsequent to that, once you understand the current state, you explore to make sure what is your desired state. The desired state is to go back to where Manchester United is supposed to be. And after that, you start putting what you call action plans on the table. And what is achievable ones in terms of what is the layout around that, and then how you're going to measure that. And you start asking.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's hold it there, Coach Rapula and Loazi. Thank you so much. That was really insightful, and I hope we get your collaboration next time when we hold a 1-hour session on the fuel coaching model. Thank you so much. We appreciate your input.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Great. I think we move on to Coach Tosi. Yes, Coach Tosi, to talk about change coaching model. Welcome, Coach Tosi. We are all yours.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you so much. Good evening to everyone and also to our listeners. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I will be talking about change coaching model, which was created by Rosie Kropp. But before I do that, let me briefly introduce myself. I'm a learning and development specialist with a key focus on transformation. And I've worked on leadership programs and developing people. And also I've worked on raw talent, somebody coming from school and going into the workplace. And also I've worked also on people with disabilities. So for me, this coaching model resonates more with what I have done successfully for other people, be it clients or just in the workspace. And the ultimate goal of this model is the successful transformation of an individual after she has gone through all the experiences and all the phases of change. So change means a lot of people to different people, and it translates differently, especially within their work environment. It can be an improvement of skill set and knowledge. It can be a change in character. It can be about emotional, spiritual, financial, or psychological change. And for others, change affects them the minute they start a new job. And for others, it's a new position, department, place, or system they have to work with on a daily basis. So this is where I start. For instance, if we look at also the relationship before any meeting takes place, I'm always of the view that you must be both present. The client and the coach must be both present in body and mind and in spirit in order to have a meaningful discussion. And also it's important that in that meeting, notes should be taken down and compare notes, because you don't want a coachee to leave the room and then you realize that you're talking different things. So you need to compare notes and ensure that you both understand each other. So I'm going to highlight the 6 phases of change, then provide examples where applicable. C, the first C of change stands for create vision and goals. H, holistic self-assessment and awareness. A, this is action planning. N, nourish motivation and implement actions. G, growth and personal development. Lastly, E, evaluate and celebrate. So we go through the first phase. This is mapping out your own transformation journey as a coachee and figuring out what you want to be in this organization. So the rest of you and how you intend bringing that change in you. It also means aligning your vision and your goals with those of the teams, because you're not going to work alone. You align them with departments and also the vision and the goals of the organization. So in other words, you have to understand what the product and the services of that organization, because you don't want to be selling a different product and busy working on goals which have nothing to do with where you are based. So also when you talk about then your goals, they must be smart in terms of being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and within the time that is specified. Okay. We move from there. Then we go to the second phase, which is your holistic self-assessment and awareness. Here, the coachee needs to be aware of where they are in terms of their skills, their knowledge, and their attributes. They also need to rate their skills and their knowledge versus their goals and vision. And I think we should all remember that we come from a global pandemic. And along the way, some people have forgotten some skills because of trauma, because of being away from the office. So those skills, they need to be honed over time. So I will just give a brief example. As an HR specialist, I once convinced a line manager to appoint a person who had all the best technical skills and knowledge to do a complicated job. The position was a scarce skill. But the person lacked people skills. She had a defensive character. And this was her blind spot. Remember, I spoke about self-awareness. So she was not aware of that. However, as I looked at this person, the process of interviews, I was convinced that the person could improve her attitude. And her soft skills also could be groomed. So the line manager agreed that I could help her on condition that it's done within the 3 months probation. So on daily basis, I requested the person to record everything that she does, the emails, record how she talks to people, the tone of her emails, and all that. And, she had a logbook to do that. And it's interesting, during the first month, significant change. 3 months, she was retained. She became a senior person within that department. So this is the role that we play as coaches, to make sure that there's significant change. We identify talent where there's none, and we let people aware of their blind spots. So we come to the third phase, which is action plan. This is a mini project for the coachee. And this is when the coachee needs to put down the roles and responsibilities. What is it that she wants to do? How is she going to achieve this? Who is going to be involved in the process, and by when? And also all other necessary resources that she may need. The coachee also must look at priority, things that are urgent and important, in terms of the goals. Because some things can be very important but not urgent at all. So the focus would be on the urgent ones. So also, what I would advise all the time, as a coachee, include your own personal and quiet time in the plan, where you can focus on your spiritual and emotional self. It can be just you and your creator and nature, because you will need it. You'll definitely need it. So the fourth phase will be nourish, motivation, and implement actions. So this is where the coachee needs to start working on their plan. Read interesting books, which will nourish the brain and give the extra miles. It will give also the extra mile to the person. And also advise the coachee, have a tracking system of what your action plan is. Put highlights on your, if you've got a computer or whatever gadget you're using, something that will just bleep and show you that this thing, and make sure that at least you've got a week to do something, so that you don't just do overnight and you're exhausted, you can't do your work, and you make a lot of mistakes. So then, and also you highlight each milestone, especially when you've achieved it before the time set. It is a good feeling even for the coach, because you realize that, okay, you must be doing something good, for this person. So the fifth stage, with his growth and personal development. We need to remember that it takes about 3 weeks, a minimum of 3 weeks to see change. And also most habits, they may take longer. So here the coach must observe what and how has changed. So you ask people around to assess you and your work. They know you have changed for the better in a way. You go back to your personal development plans that you had, that you discuss with your line manager, and look, what is it that you've done in terms of your growth. And also you look at how you've been appraised before by your line manager. You know, you read your emails before you became part of the coaching and after. You check your tone, your language use when you communicate. You listen to your recordings that you've done before and after. And you look at the discussions. You look at, I always say, look at your facial expressions and body language, because it says a lot about who you are, and try to tone down. So the coachee will see a significant change. Even people around will see the change. The last phase, which is evaluate and celebrate. So this is time to evaluate how far you've gone, both the coachee and the coach. You look at the action plan. Remember, this is an ongoing process. It's not done overnight. And again, in reference to the earlier question that was raised in the first session from 6 o'clock, can everything be achieved at once? So it's an ongoing process. Sometimes, in other cases, depends how fast the person is, and also it depends on how enabling the environment is. Because when you go through this process, remember, it's not just your secret thing. It is an understanding between your senior that you're going through a coaching process. So, and also you can also consider whether you still want to do further coaching or not. So the ideal situation, if there's a lack, maybe one or more sessions wouldn't harm the company. So because after all, it's not only about the finances, it's about the skill set and the assets that you want to keep in your company. So in a nutshell, this is what I'm presenting. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope we have gained a lot from this.
Thank you so much, Tosi. I can feel the passion with which you are engaging with this model. It speaks to you, right?
Yes, it does. It does. It's everything that I've done. And, for me, when we talk about transformation and change, because everybody's so afraid of the word change, but sometimes it's nothing much. It's just like changing the attitude and changing the systems around you and make them work for you. So, yeah, it's a scary situation, but it is achievable.
I look forward to learn from you when we do a full 1 hour session with you on change coaching model. Thank you so much, Tosi. And I know you've put a lot into it. And I can feel that if we call you tomorrow for an hour session, you will be ready.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sam. Thanks. You're being kind as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow, good stuff. So now we are ready for Coach Sash. And she is talking about Achieve module, a coaching model.
Hi, Sam.
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay. Hi, Sam. Hi, coaches. Hi, listeners. I'm Sesh, also known as Shazia Parak. I've got about 30 plus years in what I'd call coaching and allied fields, which is essentially leadership, strategy, applied psychology, integration, and synthesis of organizations.
Just increase your volume, Sash, on your phone.
Okay. We at top volume.
We can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a number of fields that are allied to the coaching field, and it's 30 odd years, which gives one's age away. I think my toughest job to date, though, is being a mom. Now, when it comes to this presentation, I'm trying to cater for big picture thinkers and reasonably detail orientated people, and if it becomes possible time-wise, to look at a few practical applications. Okay, so if I just look at the format, I'm going to do a sort of introduction and sort of pull the thread of what my very esteemed colleagues have talked about, and similarities and overlaps and that sort of thing that I think we all experience. And then some of the technical sides of the Achieve model, possibly some drawbacks, what really works. And then I think we'll try as far as possible to take some questions or at least have an online discussion. So by means of an introduction, if we sort of pull the thread of what all the colleagues have been talking about from 6 o'clock today, you'll find that there are a number of ancient methods like Socratic questioning, concepts like psychological safety. That would involve now psychological safety, emotional intelligence, intellectual intelligence, spiritual intelligence, moral intelligence, and I'm sure there's several more that have come out since I've last read. I think the thing that's important to note is that whether you're doing coaching, whether you're a leader, whether you're just leading self, and that can be as you can be a housewife, you can work in an NGO, you can work in a whole range of situations. But essentially, this becomes, I think you mentioned it, Sam, a very critical tool in your professional toolkit. Now, what I've found from my experience in the field is that versatility, flexibility, your experience, the timing of your interventions, the pace at which you introduce interventions, your own self-awareness, obviously, and your kinds of experiences you've accumulated in your lifetime. Now, when we talk about experiences, we often think solely in terms of work experiences. But your experiences include travel, who you've met, who your teachers have been, who your mentors have been, who are your professional colleagues, who are your personal colleagues, who are still your school friends. So when you have a sort of conglomerate of all those experiences, that's what we actually refer to when we talk about experience. Okay? So this obviously then means just, maybe after the show, during the show, we've each got an opportunity to go and introspect a little more kindly to ourselves on, I've just been, for example, saying on my CV, I've got 10 years experience, or I've got 5 years experience, etc., etc. But when you actually go and relook, apart from resumes and things like that, how you actually introduce yourself at courses, at presentations, as a leader, and as a coach will differ. Okay, now let's get straight to Achieve. I'm going to look a little bit at the technical side of the model, and this is to cater for those who've used this model, for those who do like it, for those who don't like it, and we can always have chats about whether it's in this session or future, about how you see this interfacing with other models that you actually use. Okay, so for those who like acronyms, Achieve has, 7 steps. One of them is A for assess, second, C for create, 3, hone, 4, initiate, 5, evaluate, 6, valid, and 7, encourage. Okay. Now you're going to find that unlike many other acronyms, this doesn't fit in as neatly as some of the others. So it's important that you know that as a manager or a leader, this is something you can use with your teams, with your peers, upwards, downwards, horizontally, and most importantly, for your self development. So if we look at assessing the current situation, some of the things we would look at is, well, how do we assess the current situation, the current state? And the obvious logic here is you don't understand where you want to get if you don't really know where you are right now. So one or two questions you might decide to ask could be, well, what's happening, as the coach to the coachee? Well, what's happening in your work at the moment? What's your current situation? How does it feel? What's working for you? What's not working for you? What are some of your challenges? And I think a question I like is, what would you like to be different? If we go to the second, which is creatively brainstorming alternatives. Now, once you've looked at your current state, you're helping your coachee to think about potential alternatives. And I think many of the coaches have focused on this aspect. So what's important here, and again, something I like, and I think it was Shisi who mentioned this issue of gentleness and psychological space. But here we're gently trying to nudge people how to explore how they would like things to be. And also mentioned previously is it is not always easy to imagine alternative futures on your own. So one or two questions you may want to ask to your coachee at this stage is, well, how can the situation be different? What could you change about yourself or others? What alternative outcomes are there? The next one we look at is honing your goals. And I think we just talked about this a minute or two ago. But this honing of goals is pretty important because it's helping the coachee to refine how they would actually like things to be different and how to define the goals they may want to actually work on. Now, we think sometimes that honing goals is simple. And yes, as colleagues have mentioned, there are a number of fantastic models that can be used. The SMART is one of them, and STAR, and there are quite a few. But I think because we want this model as far as possible to straddle both what's colloquially called hard factors and so-called soft factors, which we all know are the actual tough ones. We want to be able to assist and empower the coachee as much as possible to be doing as much of this work as possible. And so it means your pace, your timing, your interventions, and so on. And you will look at this throughout the model. Okay. So building blocks for success, what can we do as leadership to assist? What do you think success will actually look like to you? What are some of your objectives? Is there anything specifically you're trying to work towards? The next step, which is the fourth, is looking at initiating options or generating options, right? So, assuming the coachee now knows at this juncture where they are and where they'd like to be, we're going to obviously do, again, what's in a lot of leadership textbooks, bridge the gap. right? It's done in performance improvement consulting as well. So how are we going to actually bridge that gap? And there are probably a number of options that the person may have already thought of during this time. Because we work on the assumption also, I found that when you excite people about what they do, you know, the old adage, people must not leave their passion at the front gate when they enter the workplace. So when you excite people sufficiently, they will often go and do a lot of homework without being asked to. And that's the best kind of learning, the ongoing learning, which we do ourselves as coaches all the time.